Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Zottola,
And I'm Mr. Greevy.
and we're going to run down the class syllabus for your biology class. All right, Mr. Greevy, take it away for the first part.
Sure. So at the top of your syllabus, guys, we have some contact information, our email, the rooms we're usually in. Mr. Z is going to be setting up this Remind. So we'd like everybody to sign up for Remind. If you need help with that, you can obviously talk to us about that. And we just want to go over some basic things with the syllabus in this video. So if you have any other questions later, obviously, please come and ask. So this is a co-taught Regents biology course. All students enrolled in the class will take the Living Environment Regents exam at the end of the school year. We're going to cover lots of different topics from the human body and its systems, genetics, evolution, and ecology. Real basic stuff you need for the course: pens and pencils, device with internet access. We're going to actually have some Chromebooks in the room for at least the first 2 weeks, right, Mr. Z?
Yes,
And a folder would be great, just so if we do have some hard copies of things, you can keep them all together in one place. All additional materials such as homework packets, guided notes packets, videos, projects will be posted on Google Classroom. Hard copies will be passed out in class if you need them. Now, we're really going to try very hard to use mostly digital copies of things, and we're going to go over how you guys are going to use programs like Kami to answer stuff digitally, and the Google Forms. And that way, especially if we may need to pivot at some point this year to all virtual, that we are well-versed in using that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to do mostly digital if we can.
So yeah, as Mr. Greevy is saying, our goal is that we try and get mostly digital, just in case we do have to pivot into an all remote, although we would love to see you every single day. So we're just going to run through a couple of the tech items that you're going to be using and the need for the understanding of these. So right here, the apps and programs are all school approved, and we're going to be using your school Gmail login information whenever using any of these. And that's a real important factor. You have to remember that anytime you log into anything, Classroom, Kami, Edpuzzle, YouTube, or Remind, just use your Google login. That's your Gmail account through the school and your password. So the first big piece is Google Classroom. I recommend that you download the app if you're using it on a device such as an iPad, a tablet, or even your phone. It's much smoother on a computer. You're going to use the standard Google Classroom suite. That's the G Suite you'll hear people talk about. And if you're doing that, use Chrome as a browser. It's so much more smooth and much more accessible. Within that, you're going to see us, we're using a program called Kami. Kami allows you to enter information on PDF documents through a Google extension and hand things in on Google Classroom. There will be a lesson on how to use Kami. You can draw, you can put a text box, you can sign things, you'll be asked to sign things. You could even put shapes and highlight using Kami. It's a really good program, and you're going to be using it a lot, I've got a feeling, this year. The third program we're going to use is something called Edpuzzle, which allows us to have you watch videos with embedded questions. So during the video, questions will pop up and the video will stop. At a good point where you've just been given the information, now you can answer it. There is a student app for that if you want to try and download it, although we'll be using the web-based version. On occasion, you'll see any of our videos are going to be posted up to a YouTube through the school. To watch videos that are through the school YouTube, you have to log in. I'm sure you all have your own personal YouTube accounts. You got to can that and go to the school YouTube. So be aware what you're logged into, and that you're searching the right stuff when you're in the right account, if you know what I'm talking about. And the final piece is Remind. We use the program Remind. There is an app for parents and students to download for their devices and phones. It's a really good app that connects to Google Classroom, and we can post up reminders like, hey, don't forget to get the homework finished by this date, or tomorrow, bring in something special for certain different classes. It just gives us a really good avenue to get in touch with you. So those are the tech needs you're going to have in our class. So that's kind of the tech piece out of the way. So I think we're going to get into the grading now. And Mr. Greevy, you want to take that?
Sure. So the grading is going to be balanced mostly in 3 sections here, as you can see. The first one we're calling assessments. That's going to include tests, projects, quizzes that we'll be giving at the end and during the unit. Students will be given ample time to study and prepare for these. Because we're in a hybrid model this year, it might look a little bit differently than we're used to when we're in full 5 days a week, and we'll probably have more assessments, but they'll be shorter, and we'll be developing that as we go along with the school year. Participation, including homework packets, classwork, remote video lessons. It's going to be really important that you guys understand you're in school for 2 days a week with the hybrid model. And those days that you are not in school, you're expected to make sure that you log in on that day and complete whatever the remote video lesson is, because that's also going to count for your attendance for the day. So at the end of that day, the next day, let's say you had a remote lesson on Monday, the next day on Tuesday, we have to go through and check, and we're doing attendance based on, did you turn in whatever the work that was assigned on Monday. So it's really important that you're going to do that each day during the week. Labs are going to be 30%. Successful completion of the lab program is required to take the readings exam in June. We will be having labs obviously in school, but we're also going to have some virtual activities that will count towards our lab minutes this year. The state has approved that because obviously you guys are in school in the classroom less than half time. Makeup labs must be made up immediately upon your return to school. We're going to obviously work with you guys if something happens and you're absent, because we're only going to see you in class. You guys will only be here for lab once every 2 weeks because it's ABCD. We'll work with you guys if there's any issues with there. So then I'll pass on the student expectations to Mr. Z.
All right, so real simple. Student expectations are, you're high school students, guys. So bottom line, you're expected to come to class on time and with your guided notes, and they'll be digital once we get into the year, but we're going to start with some hard copies, okay? Your hard copy of the homework packet is also expected to be with you at all times, because that single packet has homeworks for different days on it to keep it a little simpler. Also, so you don't have to carry around as much, and that's what should be great for your 3-ring binder or your folder material. So that's basic school stuff, right? You're expected to follow all the safety and social distancing protocols, use of hand sanitizer when you enter the room, a mask on at all times. And we'll talk about mask breaks in class when you're here to clarify how we're going to do those. All right, you're expected to participate in a positive and constructive manner. And participation will consist of answering questions asked of any individual, so you can be called on, or you could volunteer, and also contributing to the subject being studied. We'd love to have you bring your knowledge, your information, even your current events into the classroom. Just be mindful of others' feelings, others' beliefs, and others' understanding, and respect that Mr. Greevy and I will always guide you in a positive, respectful manner to keep the class discussion going and light. We can have some fun with it. So here's the piece that's probably not so familiar. At home, all right? When you're at home, you must log on. And I do say must like that. You must log on to Google Classroom on your designated remote days. You will probably, if you're really good with tech, put some notifications on your Google Classroom if you have an app, and it'll remind you, hey, something was posted that's going to happen tomorrow. Something was posted with a due date. It's good to be aware. So log on, get familiar with it. It's not going anywhere. And Mr. Greevy and I would be happy to help you with that, okay? Also, Students need to complete video lessons and assignments by the due date and the time. Most of the time, that time is going to be midnight of the night of the day it's due. Please don't wait until 11 o'clock to do those. First, you should be getting better sleep. But that's the different piece of how we're doing things now. You had a little taste of it in the spring. This is how it's going to go for the next few weeks to start. So get used to doing that log on, just like you're checking your email. And for those who are looking to go on to the future in college and a job that requires you to be in touch with your bosses and your workers, you got to check that stuff every day. It's part of your routine. All right. I'll send it over to Mr. Greevy for some lab information now.
Excellent. And just to add on to that about the at-home stuff, you guys will receive, if you haven't already, a proposed schedule. If you want to have kind of a breakdown of, what you're probably going to be required to do, and it's about a half hour for each of your academic courses. So that's kind of the time investment that you're going to need to spend for each of those days when you have a remote, a remote assignment. Labs. The conduct and purpose of lab is to give you some experience in being a scientist. These experiences will include safely following lab procedures, handling delicate, costly equipment. Students who fail to conduct themselves appropriately will be removed from lab, and furthermore, a student may be held financially responsible for damage of the equipment through carelessness or misuse. I'm sure we're not going to have any problems with that. You guys are all super responsible high schoolers, and that's not going to be an issue. Preparation. Since all labs have a limited amount of working time, it's essential that the students are familiar with each lab by reading assigned references before coming to lab and participating in pre-lab discussion. So as we are mostly 3 days out of 5 each week, you're going to be virtual. We are going to put some of that pre-lab prep stuff as part of your virtual lessons at times, as much as we can, to make sure that you get that before you come in to the classroom to do the lab. So it's important that you do that so you're ready to go right away, so we can maximize those lab days you have once every 2 weeks. Laboratory requirements. The successful completion of the lab program is a prerequisite for admission to the Regents exam. You need to get your lab minutes. This includes complete, satisfactorily written lab reports collected and kept in a lab folder. It's super important, guys, because you want to make sure that you have all your labs completed, that they're on time. So we want to stay on top of that. Now, it is going to be a little tricky again when you're only in lab once every 2 weeks physically, but there will be some virtual activities we do at home that will count towards those minutes. Makeup labs. Absence on lab days should be avoided whenever possible. If you miss a lab period, plan on making it up as soon as you return to school. We will help you guys figure that out. Just make sure you come and talk to us, ask us, email us, contact us somehow about it, so we know, because with all these students, so it's difficult for us to keep on top of everything, and we need you guys to take some responsibility there and step up if you're absent and just say, hey, I need help, and we'll be happy to help you out. And I'll pass off the next section to Mr. Z.
All right, so thank you very much. This piece right here is about the benchmarked exams and the Regents exam. So I gotta point this out, okay? This will be subject to change. We don't know the change, and we will be just as eager to find out if it's going to change as you will. We promise that as soon as we find out about it, we'll pass that information along to you and your parents, okay? But we're going to go as if we're going to have this normally. So benchmark exams happen at the end of the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter. Okay, these are cumulative exams that are more or less built on what you've learned in those quarters. The dates of these exams will be announced much ahead of time, so you have sufficient ability to prepare for them. And there will most likely be some review sessions that come along, since everyone in the building takes the benchmark exams at the same time, and everyone in your subject takes the same benchmark exam. Each benchmark counts towards 4% of your final grade. So with 3 of them, you get 12% right there. All right, that's a chunk of your grade, ladies and gentlemen. And now what you probably heard enough about If you're a 10th grader, you know about them. If you're a 9th grader, you're going to hear about them all the time. Regents exams, okay? The Regents exam will take you will take the Living Environment Regents exam in June. This is a cumulative test of the full year, and it counts towards your final grade as 12%. So between these two sets of exams, the benchmarks and the Regents, that's 24% of your final grade. Doing well on these really helps you, okay? So you're going to hear about it. We'll prepare you the best you can possibly be prepared for them. You got to have faith that this is going to happen and believe it. This is what the state wants to happen, these exams. So that's going to be the big piece. I hope we don't drive you too crazy talking about them. So ultimately, we look forward to having a really successful year with you. We look forward to taking this new normal and making it as fun, as efficient, and as enjoyable as possible. Mr. Greevy and I are huge fans of science, and we would like this class to be a really, really enjoyable environment to explore the science of our world and the living environment. Before we finish this last little piece, Mr. Greevy, you have anything to finish up with?
Just want to echo what you said, Mr. Z, that we're looking forward to having a successful year. We know, guys, it's going to be a bit of a steep learning curve for everybody, adjusting to a different type of schedule, but we are excited to help you out with whatever you need, and we're gonna get it done. We're gonna figure it out.
So the last little piece here, all right, this little piece at the bottom, this is in an effort to confirm that parents and students have reviewed this class syllabus. Please both use Kami to insert your name and date via text box. So you're a student, you're going to put your name right there. You're going to give us your date right here, 9/4. And when you sign it, you're going to use a different tool for Kami. But let me tell you, it's really cool. And you're going to give us your John Hancock. And your parents are going to do the same right here on the bottom. And the reason we really want that is that you have to learn how to use these tools. But also your parents should know that you know how to use these tools, and well, they'll be asked to use these tools at some point as well throughout the year. So don't worry, this is gonna count as a first quiz grade and get these signed and submitted through Google Classroom. And sure enough, you're gonna get yourself a nice 10 out of 10 on the quiz grade. And remember, hit submit. Remember to turn in your work on Google Classroom so we can give you the grade you deserve. All right, everyone. This is Mr. Zottola saying thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in person.
Sounds good.
All right, guys.